Welcome back to Talk Tickers, everyone. Now, I know we usually spend our time, dissecting earnings calls and all that, deciphering the language of CEOs and stuff. But today, we're going to switch gears a bit. Some news broke this morning that felt important to address, even for a finance-focused podcast like ours.
Absolutely. The passing of former U.S. President Jimmy Carter at the age of 100 is certainly a significant event. Yeah, one that warrants reflection even beyond the world of politics.
Right. And I think it's fair to say that for many, Carter's presidency might be a bit of a blurry memory. The Iran hostage crisis, some economic struggles. But his story, both during his time in office and the decades that followed, is far richer and more complex than those snapshots.
Oh, it really is. Yeah, he was a figure who defied easy categorization and whose impact extends far beyond those often cited challenges.
So let's start with the basics. For anyone who might not be familiar with the full scope of his life, President Carter passed away peacefully at his home in Plains, Georgia, after entering hospice care earlier this year. He was 99 years old.
And it's important to note that he wasn't just a politician. He was a peanut farmer, a naval officer, a Sunday school teacher, all before stepping onto the national political stage. His background as an outsider, someone who campaigned on honesty and integrity, really resonated with voters, especially after the Watergate scandal.
Yeah, you can almost feel the collective sigh of relief from the nation back then. Give us someone genuine, someone different. And Carter stepped into that void.
Precisely. He represented a break from the perceived cynicism and corruption of Washington, a return to simpler values. But of course, his presidency was far from simple. It was marked by both significant achievements and some very difficult challenges.
Let's dig into those achievements first. What stands out to you as his most impactful accomplishments during his time in office?
Well, there are several that come to mind. On the foreign policy front, the Camp David Accords are undoubtedly a crowning achievement. Brokering a peace treaty between Egypt and Israel, two nations that had been locked in conflict for decades, was a truly remarkable feat of diplomacy.
And one that continues to have ripple effects today, shaping the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East in profound ways. It's a testament to his commitment to peace and his willingness to take risks on the global stage.
He also successfully navigated the transfer of control of the Panama Canal back to Panama, a move that was highly controversial at the time, but one that he saw as crucial for restoring justice and sovereignty to Panama.
That takes guts, standing up for what you believe is right, even when facing intense political pressure. It speaks to a certain moral compass that guided his actions both in domestic and international affairs. But of course, as you mentioned, his presidency wasn't without its difficulties.
Indeed. Economically, his time in office coincided with a period of significant turmoil. We're talking stagflation, rising oil prices, a sense of economic uncertainty that pervaded much of the nation.
And those economic anxieties likely played a role in shaping public perception of his presidency. It's hard to feel optimistic about foreign policy wins when your wallet's feeling the pinch.
Absolutely. And then there's the elephant in the room, the event that arguably cast the longest shadow over his time in office, the Iran hostage crisis. The 444-day ordeal with 52 American diplomats and citizens held captive gripped the nation and became a symbol of a perceived decline in American power and influence.
It was a constant source of tension, frustration, and ultimately national trauma. And the failed rescue mission only compounded the sense of helplessness and disappointment. It's hard to overstate the impact that event had both on Carter's presidency and on the national psyche.
It became this defining moment, and sadly for many, it overshadowed the accomplishments we discussed earlier. It's a stark reminder that in politics, perception often trumps reality, and a single event can irrevocably alter a leader's legacy.
So we have this complex picture emerging. A man of deep integrity, committed to peace and justice, who achieved some truly remarkable things on the world stage, but who also faced immense challenges that ultimately cut his presidency short. But as we'll explore in a bit, the story doesn't end there. In many ways, Carter's most impactful work was just beginning.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it, how often history sort of rewrites these initial narratives we construct? In Carter's case, he left office with these fairly low approval ratings, seen by many as an ineffective leader, yet his post-presidency work has earned him a Nobel Peace Prize and really, completely reshaped how we view his legacy.
Okay, so let's dive into that. What were some of the key initiatives he focused on after leaving the White House?
Well, alongside his wife, Rosalind, he established the Carter Center, an organization dedicated to advancing human rights, promoting democracy, and tackling global health challenges. Their work has spanned continents, from monitoring elections in emerging democracies to mediating conflicts in war-torn regions.
So we're not just talking about speeches and symbolic gestures. This was boots on the ground,
Yeah.
actively engaging in some of the world's most pressing issues.
Exactly. They weren't content with simply observing. They rolled up their sleeves and got involved in finding solutions. One particularly striking example is their work in nearly eradicating guinea worm disease.
Now, that's a detail I think a lot of people might not be aware of. Tell us a bit more about that.
Sure. Guinea worm disease is a parasitic infection that used to plague millions, primarily in Africa. It causes excruciating pain and disability. Carter and the Carter Center made it their mission to wipe it out. And through education, sanitation programs, community outreach, they came incredibly close to achieving that goal.
Wow, that's remarkable. A former president taking out a microscopic parasite and winning. It speaks volumes about his dedication to, practical, impactful solutions.
It really does, and it wasn't just high-level initiatives. He was also deeply involved in hands-on humanitarian work. His commitment to Habitat for Humanity, building homes for low-income families well into his 90s, is a testament to his belief in service and his genuine connection to people from all walks of life.
Yeah, the images of him hammering nails alongside volunteers are iconic. It wasn't a photo op for him. It was a true reflection of his values and his desire to make a tangible difference.
And this commitment to service, both during and after his presidency, is ultimately what reshaped his legacy. He demonstrated that leadership isn't confined to political office. It's about using your platform, your experience, your resources to uplift others and make the world a better place.
He certainly set a high bar for former presidents. It's a challenge to all of us, really, to consider how we can contribute to something larger than ourselves.
Absolutely. His life is a powerful reminder that impact can take many forms, and true leadership often reveals itself in those quiet acts of service and dedication to a cause greater than one's own ambition.
And on that note, while we're not diving into earnings calls today, our minds are always churning with market possibilities. So shall we indulge in a little, this is not financial advice, speculation inspired by Carter's life and work?
Let's do it. I'm always up for a good thought experiment, especially one rooted in something as impactful as President Carter's legacy. But first, the obligatory disclaimer to our listeners. This is purely hypothetical for entertainment purposes only. We are not financial advisors, and this should not be taken as investment advice.
Agreed. Always good to cover our bases. All right, so where do we begin? What market ripples might we see in light of President Carter's passing?
Well, considering his profound commitment to peace and conflict resolution, one area to watch might be defense stocks. Now, hear me out. His legacy could spark renewed conversations about diplomatic solutions, potentially leading to decreased military spending in the long run.
Interesting. So we're thinking a contrarian play? Perhaps shorting defense companies like Lockheed Martin or Northrop Grumman?
It's a bold move, no doubt, and it hinges on a lot of ifs. Public sentiment would need to shift significantly towards diplomacy, and that's not a guaranteed outcome. But if Carter's passing reignites those conversations, it could create an interesting opportunity for investors willing to take a calculated risk.
All right, so a potential short on defense stocks fueled by a resurgence of Carter-inspired peacemaking sentiment. Risky, but with potential for significant upside if that sentiment takes hold. What else comes to mind?
Let's not forget his unwavering commitment to humanitarian work, particularly in the realm of global health. His passing, coupled with increasing awareness of global health challenges, might spark interest in companies focused on innovative medical technologies or disease eradication efforts.
Okay, I like where you're going with this. What specific tickers might be worth watching in this space?
Well, a company like Novavax, ticker NVAX, could be one to consider. They've been at the forefront of vaccine development, and their work on a malaria vaccine aligns with Carter's passion for tackling neglected tropical diseases. Their success could have a major impact on global health outcomes, particularly in developing countries.
So we're essentially betting on the Carter effect, driving increased investment in companies like Novavax that are working to address some of the world's most pressing health challenges.
Exactly. And while their stock has been volatile, their potential to make a real difference, coupled with this renewed focus on global health, could make them an intriguing play for investors with a long-term perspective.
All right, so potential long on NVAX driven by the Carter effect on global health awareness. But as always, we need to consider the risks. What are the potential pitfalls here?
Well, the biotech sector is inherently risky. Clinical trials can fail, regulatory hurdles can arise, and competition is fierce. Plus, Novavax's financial performance has been inconsistent, so there's a level of uncertainty baked in. But for investors who believe in their mission and are willing to ride out the bumps, it could be a compelling opportunity.
Okay, so a potential play on NVAX, with the caveat that biotech is a volatile space and past performance is no guarantee of future returns. And remember, folks, this is pure speculation, just a way to think about how current events might ripple through the market in unexpected ways. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions.
Couldn't agree more. And it's a testament to President Carter's impact that even in the realm of finance, his legacy can spark such thought-provoking discussions.
It's interesting to think about President Carter's life, through the lens of our usual talk tickers discussions. We often talk about, long-term investments, evaluating companies not just on their current performance, but on their potential for future growth.
Yeah, and in a way, Carter's story is a powerful example of that principle in action. He wasn't always appreciated in the moment, but his dedication to these seemingly, unglamorous causes like guinea worm eradication or election monitoring ultimately yielded incredible returns in terms of human progress and global stability.
It's like investing in a company that's focused on solving a seemingly niche problem, but that problem has the potential to become huge down the line.
Exactly. Or a company that's taking a principled stand, maybe even sacrificing short-term profits for the sake of a long-term vision.
It's a reminder that true value isn't always immediately apparent. Sometimes you have to look beyond the surface, consider the ripple effects, and trust that the market, or in this case, history, will eventually recognize the worth of those efforts.
Like investing in renewable energy back when it was still considered fringe. It might have seemed like a risky bet then, but now it's clear that those early investments were laying the groundwork for a more sustainable future.
And in a way, that's what Carter did with his post-presidency work. He invested his time, energy, and reputation in causes that many dismissed as insignificant or idealistic. But those investments have yielded dividends in terms of peace, health, and human dignity that will continue to pay off for generations to come.
Yeah, it's a powerful lesson in the importance of playing the long game, both in investing and in life. Looking beyond the immediate fluctuations, focusing on the fundamentals, and trusting that the value you create will eventually be recognized.
It's a fitting reminder as we wrap up this special episode of Talk Tickers, inspired by the life and legacy of President Jimmy Carter. Even amidst our usual discussions of earnings calls and market trends, it's crucial to remember that the numbers only tell part of the story.
Absolutely. The true measure of success lies in the impact we have on the world around us, the lives we touch, the contributions we make to building a better future.
Well said. Thanks for joining us for this slightly different kind of deep dive. We'll be back to our regular programming soon, but we hope this conversation has provided some food for thought, both for your investment strategies and for your approach to life in general.
And as always, we encourage you to do your own research, stay informed, and never stop questioning. Until next time, happy investing, everyone.